welcome to another edition of Debatable here on GodIsGeek.com. My name's Colm, and this week we're looking at a wizard. But not any wizard. A wizard that came from the moon. A great cinematic experience. The next level in cinematic drama. Cinematic games have reached their zenith. All phrases you can imagine on the back of video game boxes. This medium has been trying to replicate the splendor and majesty of Hollywood ever since the word cutscene was introduced to our vernacular. Some people loathe this style of storytelling, whilst others eat it up. What also gets eaten up, sadly, is the number of voice actors that use this as a way to put food on the table because Hollywood! What's the hottest thing on telly at the minute? No, not Home and Away, but Game of Thrones. Yes, people love their weekly dose of blood, tits and sexy Jon Snow, who knows nothing, I might add. HBO and Sky Atlantic recently showed the final episode of season 4, and it was a massive finale to one of the show's best seasons yet. Over the course of 4 years, the man you know from Elf, well, realistically, you probably know him from Game of Thrones a bit more. Peter Dinklage has thrust himself into the limelight and has won critical and public acclaim for his terrific performance as Tyrion Lannister. What's the next step for the biggest thing in Tinseltown? Well, video games, of course! Last June, the studio that brought you Halo announced that Dinklage would be the voice behind a character in their upcoming FPS/MMO/whatever the fuck it was, Destiny. Bungie confirmed he would be voicing a character called Ghost, an AI companion for the player that will act as a narrator of sorts, describing areas and enemies you come across. Nearly a month ago to the day, the video game playing public all across the globe got their first chance to play Destiny and actually get to grips with it. People were taken aback with how good it was. They were raving about it. They were comparing it to Borderlands, Titanfall, and understandably Halo, all mixed with the ever-connected world an MMO brings to the table. But as well as that, people were talking about this.
The Hive haven't been on Earth in centuries. That wizard came from the moon.
No one was raving about Dinklage's performance as Ghost. The famed actor was criticised for a lack of passion in his delivery, and Bungie were criticised for hammy writing. Did Tyrion not have any context for his lines? People said on Reddit. Does he just not give a shit because it's a video game? They shouted from NeoGAF. Others were fine with the thespian's dialogue as Ghost is meant to be an AI, but there's no questioning that this...
Lots of motion ahead. I've got a bad feeling about this. It can't be. It's the Hive.
And this...
Dead end. Fallen sealed this gate. I can get it open.
Are devoid of any of the class we all know that Dinklage can offer. But do not fret though. After initially cashing in on the wizard meme by selling a t-shirt with the now infamous line, the development house came out this week and said, the Ghost dialogue has already been updated for beta. It will be updated for launch on September 9th as well. Funny thing about alpha builds, they're not done. Please pardon our moon dust. So it appears that you'll be getting a more impassioned Peter Dinklage come September 9th, the game's release date. Having Peter Dinklage, one of the most celebrated actors in recent memory, as a floating AI does seem strange though. Why not maximise your get and place him in a more prominent position? Or, on the other hand, you could get a voice actor. Someone who specialises in this craft rather than someone who, I'm sure, isn't coming at a discount. Developers and publishers have been turning to the rich and famous for quite a while now. They'll say it's because they want their talents, but cynically, I can't help but think it's all about the name value. Voice acting is known to be a very difficult business to break into, as it's little thanks and less than lucrative paydays. Dishonored went down the route of bringing in big names like Bungie has done. Bethesda's sneaky stab 'em up had a cast that would make most movie directors weak at the knees. Chloe Grace Moretz, John Slattery, Susan Sarandon, and someone who knows Peter Dinklage very well, Game of Thrones' Lena Headey. Yet none of the aforementioned talents put forth anything that could be considered memorable. Possibly to the point where you may not have even realised these respected names are even in the game. Fable 3 was also packed to the gills of actors from TV and film that most would be familiar with, like, oh, I don't know, Michael motherfucking Fassbender. Did it help Molyneux's final hurrah at Lionhead? No. And neither did it hurt it. Lionhead just happened to have Simon Pegg, Nicholas Hoult and John Cleese on the books. Rob Wheathoff is a name you're probably not too familiar with, but his one and only role in video games stands the test of time and will certainly be remembered for years yet. Red Dead Redemption is rightfully regarded as one of the best ever, and some of that praise should definitely be heaped on how Wheathoff captured the spirit of outlaw John Marston. After Red Dead Redemption, Wheathoff said he quickly got tired of the LA scene due to broken promises for certain gigs. The Western went on to sell 8.5 million copies, but whilst recording, Wheathoff was also bartending to pay the bills. Nowadays, video games are big business, and video game actors that put in performances on par with some of Hollywood's best aren't making the same kind of coin. Jennifer Hale, David Hayter, Nolan North, Troy Baker, Courtney Draper and Ashley Johnson are but a few of the ever-growing list of talent that we've seen appear in this medium. Yet, you probably only know a few of those names, but possibly not all. And that in itself is a travesty. Why aren't these well-respected folk getting the type of recognition and big bucks that Hollywood's elite gets? I understand that not every title is going to sell Grand Theft Auto 5 numbers, but when you're involved with Mass Effect, Metal Gear Solid, Uncharted, The Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite, as the actors already mentioned are, it's only right that they enjoy a portion of the spoils that the rest of the team does. Dinklage is a terrific actor, I'm not here to question that. On Game of Thrones he's the people's champion, and when it's all said and done, I'm sure Bungie will have gotten what they want from him for the role of Ghost, and the performance will be far greater than what it is now. But, is Dinklage necessary? There are times when I have to wonder why the fat cats with the cash don't see the value in the people who are versed in the craft and can knock it out of the park just as well as any big name actor. I'm a big advocate for voice actors and people who are excellent at it, of course. Like, if you go through the annals of video game history, yes, of course, there are hundreds of examples of terrible voice acting and shit scripts. But there are some absolute gems out there. There really, really are. And I'm not saying that every big Hollywood actor that comes to video games is terrible. A recent example, Michael Madsen in The Walking Dead was terrific. Ray Liotta in Vice City. They're just two examples that come into my head. Keith David in Saints Row 4. Yeah, it's probably a bit of an iffy one because he is playing himself. But I would not fret about Peter Dinklage, because hopefully, fingers crossed, Bungie will be cracking the whip and get him to deliver the lines in a more convincing tone, because that was pretty terrible. And now it's time to look at your comments from last week's video where I spoke about Rock Simulator and how I think it's good for video games. And Ari299 said, great video! Thanks very much, Ari, who also happens to be the developer of Rock Simulator. My point still stands. I do genuinely still think that it's just a bit of fun. You know, there's a fishing simulator announced a couple of days ago. I think, fuck it. Take this as far as you can go, and then, because the bubble will burst. I think the bubble probably will burst pretty soon. But that was last week. This week, obviously, spoke about Peter Dinklage in Destiny. Did you agree with what I said? Maybe you didn't, maybe you did. Regardless, please let me know in the comment section of the YouTube video, the comment section of the article. Tweet me. Because everything I said on this show and past shows and future shows, well, look, it's just my opinion and my opinion alone. And as always, it's debatable.